Well, it's debate night. It's here. I still don't think it's going to happen, but that's all right. The candidates are preparing in their own way. And what will the topics be tonight? What will the candidates focus on? Well, if you look at some of the videos they've put out, it gives you a hint. So we'll take a look at what's on Trump's mind right now. I couldn't possibly tell you what's on Biden's mind. You'll have to ask Valerie Jarrett. Anyway, we'll get to that. Plus, Tucker Carlson gives a masterclass on how to deal with a biased, angry, hostile reporter. He did it down under, but you'll hear it up here on this hemisphere coming up in a second. And why are Democrat congressmen so afraid to acknowledge the violent crimes that we're seeing right now because of the open border situation? Good question. We'll show you the ones who are denying reality coming up in just a moment. We got that. We got a whole lot more. It's debate day, and debate prep starts right now. We're brought to you by the Electronic Payments Coalition. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Quick note, by the way, I feel like I should apologize for something. Yesterday in our Bill Maher segment, I noted that he was having a bad hair day. And many of you lovely people who commented on that video, and we love your comments, keep them coming. We do read them. And I'm starting to reply to many of them. I've got a little more time on my hands to be able to do so. Anyway, a lot of people pointed out the fact that I am the last person on the planet who should be making fun of someone else's hair. And I can only say to you, that's fair. That's a very fair point. You're right. But I would argue that because of my unique knowledge of bad hair, I think I'm in a perfect position to comment on Bill Maher's hair. So put that in your pipe and, well, don't smoke. It's bad for you. Thanks for watching. We're live on Rumble, and we're also live on X and on Facebook, and you're probably watching us after the fact, and we love that. Thank you for doing so. Please like and subscribe to our account. We got a huge influx of new subscribers yesterday, and we love you. Thank you for that. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. All we ask of you is to keep commenting, liking, and sharing our videos with other people. Appreciate that. By the way, Kevin, real fast, was that you making fun of my hair, by the way?
I would never. I would never.
Actually, you do it a lot.
Never on camera.
We can't have a magnificent mullet like you, Kevin.
Never on camera. Never on camera.
I appreciate that. You should see how mean he is to me. IRL. So tonight's the debate. And I was on record saying I didn't think it was going to happen. And, well, we'll see. It's 9 hours from now. And if the debate happens, it'll be really something to see. And boy, are we ready for it. I mean, if you like clips and memes and viral videos, you love a presidential debate, especially one involving Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So they're getting ready for it. And you might be wondering whether this is going to be about important issues that matter most to you. Well, if you look at the mainstream media who's trying to run interference for Joe Biden, well, you'd be sorely disappointed. They're not talking about border security. They're not talking about inflation. They're not talking about the economy. They're not talking about wars abroad. They're not talking about any of those things. They think that this entire debate is about whether Joe Biden can complete a sentence, stand for 90 minutes, and not fall flat on his face. We talk about lowering the bar. I said this yesterday on the program, and I want to reiterate. Joe Biden has more experience engaging in political debates than any other living human being on the planet today. He's been doing it for over 50 years, and nobody else can say that. He's the one who challenged Donald Trump for this debate. So to say that he wins just by not looking like he's got a foot in the grave is ridiculous. No. Everything's on Joe Biden to actually show up and defend his record. And if you're like me, you're hoping that this debate is about a lot more than just, oh, look, Joe Biden can speak without sounding like he's dead. No. You actually do want him to defend the indefensible. You want to hear about what's going to be done to fix this economy so that you're not paying $1,000 for a loaf of bread anymore. If you turn over to Donald Trump's social media platforms, they've been putting out teaser videos of some advertisements that I think are actually going to run during the breaks of tonight's debate. And they're certainly being pushed on social media. Let's take a look at one of them, shall we? Here's part of Donald Trump's debate prep.
No matter what Joe Biden promised in the debate, ask yourself, are you financially better off since he became president? Are you and your family safer since he became president? Is our country more secure since he became president? After 4 years of failure under Joe Biden, it's time to make America prosperous and strong again. Donald Trump for president again.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
All right. So listen, if Donald Trump's focus tonight in the debate is that and expanding upon it and pointing out issue by issue, point by point, data segment by data segment, exactly how much worse things have gotten and connect them right back to Joe Biden's lack of leadership and his horrible decisions in spending money that we don't have and increasing the regulatory state, making it cost that much more for companies to do business in this country, thus then passing on those costs to the consumer in the guise of higher prices. That's what causes inflation, then he's going to win. And he needs to make it about you. He needs to make it about you and the pain you're feeling and how you're not going to feel it if you put him back in office. And he should be able to remind you pretty easily, hey, it was just 4 years ago when things were a whole lot different when I was in the White House. So that's good. And I think that it's actually going to, if that is in fact a good indication as to what Donald Trump is going to hope to achieve tonight, I think that it might be a good night for him. There's another video that he's put out, though, that I think that it might have an effect as well. This one does tie to Joe Biden's ability. And if Joe Biden has a tough night in terms of his memory, in terms of his stutter, in terms of his inability to put together a complete and coherent sentence, if he looks frail, if he looks like he is, in fact, not going to make it for the next 4 years, well, this ad is going to really resonate. Take a look.
When you think about the Joe Biden you saw in the debate, ask yourself a question. Do you think the guy who was defeated by the stairs, got taken down by his bike, lost a fight with his jacket, and regularly gets lost, makes it 4 more years in the White House? And you know who's waiting behind him, right? Vote Joe Biden today, get Kamala Harris tomorrow.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Another strong ad because it's a twofer. It not only shows you what a bumbling disaster and embarrassment your current commander-in-chief and head of the executive branch of our federal government is, but it also gives you the terrifying notion of who takes over if what we all assume is the truth, sadly, that Joe Biden won't make it 4 more years should he be elected. Yeah. They say that a running mate doesn't really ever help someone get elected. At least in recent years. It certainly helped John Kennedy get elected when Lyndon Johnson was able to fix the Texas vote, allegedly. But since then, they all say, a vice president can only harm you. Well, it's quite possible that Kamala Harris could be one of the most negative drags on the Biden ticket that you'll ever see, because we've seen what she's like as a vice president for the last 3.5 years. And, she's got lower approval ratings than Biden at this point. She's got lower approval ratings, to paraphrase Senator Kennedy, than toenail fungus. She's just not a likable person, and no one wants her to be president. No one. So that's a good insight into some of the things that's happening over at Team Trump. One other video that they put out that is not set up like an advertisement for television like those last two were. You will, in fact, probably see those last two during the debate tonight if you're watching. This one appears to be made for social media, which in many ways can be even more effective than a television ad. Take a look at this. It's incredibly powerful. And again, issue-oriented. It's about an issue that matters to you, and it preempts a lie that Joe Biden will probably tell tonight.
When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time. Raising the cap, raising the retirement age for people who are now 30 years old, raising the tax on Social Security, cutting benefits. They're all things that have to be discussed, quite frankly.
The American people know we have to fix Social Security. They know we can't grow our way to a solution. They know we're going to have to make some tough decisions.
Would you consider looking at those programs, age of eligibility,
Absolutely.
Cost of living, put it all on the table?
The answer is absolutely, you have to. We are going to change the retirement age for Social Security.
We will always protect Social Security and Medicare for our great seniors. Biden can't do that. As president, I kept that promise, and I will keep it once again. I will not, under any circumstances, allow either of these two precious gems to be even touched under a Trump administration. You will always have your Social Security in full as you have it now, and you always have your Medicare. Social Security will be strong and powerful. Medicare will be strong. You deserve it. I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors.
All right. It's a good ad for a couple of reasons. The first is it preempts a lie that Joe Biden will tell. It's a lie that he and the Democrats told in 2022. The Republicans are coming for your Social Security and your Medicare. It also reinforces a message that he had against Ron DeSantis, which I think wasn't completely fair, by the way. But he suggested that Ron DeSantis was going to take away your Social Security. And Trump said, no, I'm going to protect it. Listen, whether you agree or not that Social Security and Medicare should continue down the path that it's on right now without some sort of reforms, because something's got to be done to fix it. Whether that's cutting benefits or not is certainly up for debate. But there's got to be something done. Otherwise, automatic triggers are struck so that it will automatically benefits will automatically be taken away. That's baked into the law right now, which most politicians in Washington won't tell you. But anyway, that doesn't matter. The point is, this is Donald Trump getting in front of a lie that Joe Biden is sure to tell because he's told it before. And that makes it a strong and powerful ad, too. One other ad that you probably won't see tonight during the debate, but Donald Trump just recently shared this, I think last night, on his Truth Social account, and you might get a kick out of it.
If you're having trouble sleeping, ask your doctor about Bidenica, the sleep aid made from 100% Joe Biden press conference.
The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway.
Bidenica has a patented blend of confusion and forgetfulness that will calm the most overactive brains.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
When they sold out American jobs and killed the Keystone Pipeline, it kept me up all night worrying about how we pay our bills. But then I got Bidenica, and I've never slept better.
Sometimes when I get hopped up on sugar, my parents give me Bidenica so I pass out. Other times they give it to me during the day, probably so they can do the deed. Gross.
Warning. People who have used Bidenica have experienced rapid lying and an inability to secure the southern border. Others have hallucinated and fought breakfast cereals.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Ask your doctor if Bidenica is right for you.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon put that one together. And yes, Donald Trump shared it on his Truth Social account. By the way, I don't know if you caught it, but part of my favorite part of this video were some of the disclaimers at the bottom. Do not climb stairs or operate heavy equipment, right? It starts out with your basic disclaimers. And then this one, tell your doctor if you're pregnant, plan to become pregnant, or if you've taken bribes from Ukrainian and Chinese nationals in the last 15 years. Or this one, taking Bidenica, stop taking Bidenica and tell your doctor right away. If you speak gibberish, become disoriented and start thinking you are president of the United States. Anyway, all good stuff, all really good stuff, and funny. And it's part of what we like about how Donald Trump approaches this campaign is that he does have a sense of humor. And if you can't laugh at Joe Biden, well, there's something wrong with you. We have to laugh. Otherwise, we're crying. We're crying every single day. So those are the professionally produced ads. The last one, satirical, of course, for Jimmy. But the other ones were all ads that have been created by the Trump team to sort of send a message to all the voters about where they are right now and why they should vote for him. I want to share with you one other video. This is not professionally produced. This is just a dude on TikTok who put together a video. But honestly, this one might, in fact, be the most effective of them all. In fact, the Trump campaign should buy this from this guy and just stick their label on the end of it and run it endlessly. In fact, this could be a viral thing that each and every one of you could engage in and create your own version of this. This is so powerful and so effective, and I want you to see it right now.
I feel like I'm going to be sick. I just looked through my Walmart history, and I found this Walmart order from 2 years ago for the whole month worth of groceries. 45 items cost $126. A whole month of groceries just for me, basically. But I did notice this reorder all button, and I wanted to see how much it would cost now. Now, this order of 45 items for 1 month would have cost $414. That is 4 times more. How the how? Like, what?
How? Well, we know the answer. Joe Biden is in the White House after the 2020 election. That's how. So this is something that's very simple. You do if you've been ordering groceries, and a lot of us ordered our groceries 4 years ago because we weren't allowed to go to the grocery store because of Fauci and CDC and social distancing. So you should probably have a grocery order with that really handy reorder button. Do the same thing. Take some screenshots of what your grocery bill was 4 years ago. Click that reorder button and see. Now, I don't think it's going to be 4 times as much like this guy had. That's extraordinary. And I'd love to know exactly what was in that grocery cart. But why don't you do that and see what it is and then share the results? Share. You don't have to create a video like this either. You can just do a screenshot of 4 years ago what the grocery order was and then what the reorder would be today. And that right there is the most powerful message you can send to anyone about how important this election is and how important tonight's debate is as well. Millions of Americans earn and use credit card rewards. They love their credit card rewards. I love my credit card rewards, right? Corporate megastores want to take those rewards away. These are rewards that we use on groceries, on school supplies, cash back to save on gas and grow our small businesses, and travel miles we use to make memories. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would eliminate credit card rewards. We're talking no more travel miles, no more hotel points, no more cash back. When lawmakers help these corporate megastores line their pockets, American families pay for it. So tell your senator to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. Put the pressure on. Right now is the time to do it. Go to handsoffmyrewards.com today. Get more information about the bill and then use their tools right there so that you can communicate with your lawmakers and take action today. That's handsoffmyrewards.com. Tucker Carlson is down in Australia. And by the way, I wonder what he's doing. I think maybe he's trying to arrange a interview with Julian Assange. It's just a hunch of mine. I could be wrong. But he's also doing some events down there. And he did a big live event in a packed hotel ballroom. And at one point, the organizer of the event allowed 3 reporters to ask Tucker questions. Now, they caught this on video, and they put the video out through the Tucker Carlson network. He put it out for free on his social media platforms as well over at X. I suggest you go and watch the entire 21, 22 minutes. It's a remarkable performance by Tucker on how to handle the media. But I wanted to pull out this one last question he was asked by a reporter about why he's such a racist, neo-Nazi Klansman. Okay, she didn't ask the question exactly like that, but she might as well have. But watch how Tucker handles it. Tucker Carlson, who doesn't answer to anybody anymore, he's got his ideas, he's got his beliefs, he's allowed to express them and able to express them without answering to any corporate overlord. He is quite possibly the most dangerous broadcaster on the planet because he answers to no one. And you can see it manifest right here. Take a look.
So much for your address today. So you talked a little bit about immigration, and in the past you've talked about how white Australians, Americans, Europeans are being replaced by non-white immigrants in what is often referred to as the Great Replacement Theory. This is the same.
Have I said that whites are being replaced?
Well,
I don't think I said that.
Well, it's been mentioned on your show 4,000 times. And
really, when did I say that?
On your
I said
show,
whites are being replaced.
You have said that before.
Really?
Yeah.
I would challenge you to cite that because I'm pretty sure I haven't said that. I said native-born Americans are being replaced, including blacks.
Native-born Americans.
Native-born Americans.
And
Americans who, like Black Americans, have been African Americans, have been in the United States for, in many cases, their families over 400 years, and their concerns are every bit as real and valid and alive to me as the concerns of white people whose families have been there 400 years. So I've never said that whites are being replaced. Not one time. And
I
you can't
believe
cite it.
that's untrue.
So,
I'm
we just met, but when our relationship starts with a lie, it makes it tough to be friends. So
well,
let's,
I mean, you've been
let's
lying about
pull
my
that back.
Press
I'm
Gallery
happy to
colleagues all
explain what I
morning as
do
well,
think.
So,
Well, you actually can't say it because I didn't say it, and I don't believe it. And I'm telling you that to your face. So why don't you just accept me at face value? My
because it's
concern
not
is that the
true.
people who are born in the country are the main responsibility of its leaders. And as noted earlier, when those leaders shift their concern from the people whose responsibility it is to take care of to people around the world to put their priorities above that of their own citizens, that's immoral. And they are being replaced in my country, people who are born in the United States. And the birth rate tells the whole story. They are not at replacement rate. And so the US population is growing because we're importing people from other countries. And my view is that happy people have children, and a functioning economy allows them to do that. And we don't have that. And so you need to fix the economy and fix the culture and make it so that people who want to have kids can. You don't just go for the quick sugar fix of importing new people. Like, that's my position. And if you think that's racist, that's your problem.
I never called you a racist.
But of course you are suggesting, and
Well,
I
you're
must say,
also
one of the
suggesting that
reasons
white
people don't like people like you in the media is that you never say exactly what you mean. Your slurs are all by implication, and you're about to tell me the great replacement theory is racist or anti-Semitic, whatever. I've said what I've said to you right now like 100 times in public. I hope to, if I live long enough, say it 100 more times. I think it's completely honest and real, not racist or scary. It's factually true. It's not a theory, it's a fact. And the whole point of your question was to be like, you're a scary racist.
Well, I haven't
And
actually
my
finished my
response is, no, I'm
question.
not. Okay, well, how about no more lying in your questions, and then I'll answer it.
Okay. Well,
This is actually a great place to pause here. There's more to this, and it's just as good as what you just saw, and we will watch it. But just a quick pause here, because I want to point out, if you missed it, one of the most deceitful sort of traps that reporters like this lay, and the double standard that they hold the person that they're attacking, and make no mistake, this was attacked on Tucker Carlson, versus themselves, right? You know, we should make these reporters live up to the same impossible standards that they force us to live up to, or someone like Tucker Carlson. And recognize something. Tucker Carlson is a broadcaster. He's a journalist. He's a person who expresses opinions. He's not an elected official. He has no political power. He's not able to spend tax dollars. He's not able to send people off to war. Why does he even have to answer questions of a journalist? He doesn't have to be accountable to them. Guess what? If people stop watching him, that's where his accountability is, right? But either way, he doesn't have power over other people's lives. Do you ever see reporters asking Joe Biden or the Prime Minister of Australia questions and challenges like this? Of course not. Of course not. But let me just point out what she did. She, first of all, lied and said something that Tucker didn't say, right? He doesn't say that white people are being replaced. He said native-born Americans were being replaced. Now, clearly, she extrapolated that to mean white people, which, I'm sorry, if you make that assumption, there's a word for that kind of thing. That would be racism, right? Because there are millions and millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions of people in America who are native-born citizens who are not, by any stretch of the imagination, white, right? But if you immediately assume that that's what that means, then that means when you see someone who is non-white in our country and you immediately assume that they're not from this country, well, that's a racist assumption. You are making an assumption about them purely based on their skin color. That, by definition, is racist. Okay, so first of all, she made a racist assumption about what Tucker Carlson has said. But then here's the best part. So she inferred that onto him, right, through her own racist lens. Then when Tucker Carlson said, so here you are, you're saying that because of me saying that there are policies in this country that are harming those who were born here naturally as citizens, and all our elected officials are doing is trying to make it easier to import more people from other countries to fix whatever economic problem they've got, and that's not fair. You're saying that that is racist. You're here calling me a racist. And did you hear what she said? I never called you a racist. Well, you talk about a double standard. As my friend Chris Plant, who's a nationally syndicated radio host, and he's brilliant and he's hilarious, he's coined this phrase. You've heard it from other people, but it's his motto, or it's his sort of trademarked phrase. Were it not for double standards, the left would have no standards at all. So she is allowed to put words into Tucker Carlson's mouth and infer racism onto him for the purposes of her job as a journalist. And yet when she is then called out for the obvious charge that she is making, the implication that is made in that question that she asked is, well, you're implying that I'm racist. And then she pretends to feign, oh, no, I never said that. I never said you was racist. You see what she does here. And it's despicable. And Tucker's right. This is exactly why people hate people like her. As Andrew Breitbart once said, the American people don't hate the media because they're biased. They hate the media because they suck. They're just terrible people. The old media, the corporate media, the dinosaur media, the dead media, not us, not what we're doing. All right, more of Tucker.
This is the same theory, or as you say, idea that has inspired the New York Buffalo shooting, where 11 black Americans were killed. Two white Americans were killed.
Like,
and it's also inspired.
It's not. First of all,
it's inspired the worst, one of the worst Australian guns
how do
of
they
all
get
time
people
to
this
shoot
stupid in the media? I guess it doesn't pay well. Look, I'm sorry. I've lived among people like you for too long, and I don't mean to call you stupid. Maybe you're just pretending to be, but I'm totally against violence. I'm totally against the war in Ukraine, for example, which doubtless you support. And like all dutiful liberals, support more carnage. I don't. I hate mass shootings, actually. Nothing I said, what does it mean to inspire something? My views are not bigoted against any group. They're honest. They're factual. That's not hate. That's reality. And my views derive from my deep concern for Americans, actually. Americans aren't having kids because they can't afford to. And nobody in charge cares. And so that's my position. That doesn't inspire mass shootings. How dare you try to tie me to some lunatic who murdered people? How dare you, actually? And in fact, I mean, do you know what I mean? I'd be like, Hitler wore those shoes. A lot of people are saying that you're like Hitler. Can you explain those shoes? Hitler wore exactly the same shoes. And you're like, I've got nothing to do with Hitler. That's how I feel about your absurd, disingenuous question.
Right. So therefore you support gun control?
What? I thought it couldn't get dumber, but it did. No, I don't support disarming law-abiding people. So
I got to jump in here. It's almost done, but this is the left-wing Marxist brain at work. First, you falsely accuse somebody of racism by misquoting them and misattributing words that the person never said, and deny that you're actually charging them of being racist, which is, multiple levels of deceit. Then you suggest that the person is responsible for a mass shooting and deaths of people because allegedly the person who conducted that mass shooting watched his show and agreed with one of his opinions. Therefore, I'm going to go kill innocent people at a Walmart, which is despicable and disgusting. And again, a standard that they would never live up to, because how many people died during the Black Lives Matter riots? How many people's lives were damaged forever, their economies, their businesses, with the riots and the arsons of Black Lives Matter? And forget about those rioters and those arsonists and those murders being inspired by Black Lives Matter. They were literally marching shoulder to shoulder with the Black Lives Matter protesters, wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirts while they committed the crime. It wasn't inspired. It was like part of the army. And those same reporters would lionize Black Lives Matter and say that it was fiery, but mostly peaceful, right? That's a perfect comparison between a idea that leads to violence and then a madman who happens to agree with an idea who also perpetrated violence. But then when called out on that, she immediately pivots to, oh, then what about gun control? This is the left-wing Marxist mind at work. And at no point does she apologize for being wrong. Does she correct her behavior? Or no, it's like, okay, well, fine. You have an argument for that? Then let's go on to this one. And now it's gun control. And, well, I think this is Tucker at his best, actually. He's already been great during the beginning part of this, but now watch him take on gun control.
So they can't defend themselves. So the government has a monopoly. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, Hitler wore those shoes. A lot of people are saying that you're like Hitler. Can you explain those shoes? Hitler wore exactly the same shoes. And you're like, I've got nothing to do with Hitler. That's how I feel about your absurd, disingenuous question.
Right. So therefore you support gun control?
What? I thought it couldn't get dumber, but it did. No, I don't support disarming law-abiding people so they can't defend themselves. So the government has a monopoly on violence? I don't think so. First of all, in my country, that's illegal, as you know. But moreover, it should be illegal in every country. A sovereign person has the right to defend himself and his family. Period. And that said, I'm totally opposed to harming anyone. Anyone. Have you been calling? Are you concerned about the war in Ukraine and the countless innocents being murdered there every single day? I doubt you are. Probably Putin bad. I am. I'm a Christian. I hate violence. I hate mass shootings. I have guns at home and often on my person when I'm in the United States, I'm proud to say, because I want to defend myself and those I love against violence. That's the point. I'm not perpetrating crimes. I'm not shooting strangers. I'm defending what I love. And if you're against that, I guess I would ask why. Why would you be against that?
Well, so you don't think you harbor any kind of responsibility for these hate crimes?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to be charitable. I was like, maybe you're just pretending to be dumb. Now I don't think it's an act.
Tucker, thank you for taking those questions. I'm sure you enjoyed.
Actually, I loved it. I just feel sorry. I mean, because I got here and the country's so unbelievably beautiful and the people are so cheerful and funny and cool and smart. I'm like, your media's got to be better than ours. It can't just be a bunch of castrated robots reading questions from the boss. And then it turns out it's exactly the same, maybe even a tiny bit dumber.
Yeah, and thank you to the Tucker Carlson Network. I'm a member, by the way. I subscribe. Go to tuckercarlson.com. They deserve the free ad there. Come on. But we've got a great comment that says it all on Rumble. Oh, that's not the one, though. This one. From the same person, though. Tama Therese. Yeah, he is. He is, in fact, the GOAT. Doesn't mean I always agree with him. That's stupid, by the way. Anytime you say, oh, Tucker Carlson's the best, he's the greatest. Oh, so then you agree with this thing that he said on March 17th of 2008? It's like, no, of course not. Don't be an idiot. You're a moron. But he is great. Nobody else in the media can do what Tucker Carlson just did. And by the way, it goes back to my original statement because he answers to no one. He is a free man on this planet right now. And I go back to my original statement, especially if you go back and watch this. And I beg you, do, in fact, watch this entire 21-minute engagement with these three reporters because he talks about the pharmaceutical companies and their hold on media companies and why that was really at the root of the pandemic and the censorship of people during the pandemic. He talks about Putin. He talks about the war in Ukraine. He talks about foreign governments and Boris Johnson representing the UK in cutting off the peace talks that were originally initiated and the American government's sad and despicable participation in the carnage there. And he said all of these things that you don't hear said anywhere. And this is why I call him the most dangerous man in broadcasting right now, the most dangerous man in media, because he says these things and nobody can pick up the phone and say, I can't believe you let Tucker Carlson say those things. Pull him off the air right now. And I just want to say, again, I want you to watch this. And I have great respect for Tucker. I think this is a masterful performance. And to be sincere, to be honest, I actually fear for him. Because when you're this good at what you do and you don't answer to anyone and you feel free to speak your mind at that level, you are very dangerous to people who are very powerful. And last night after watching this, I said many prayers for Tucker and his family. I hope he's got protection. He says he walks around with a gun. That's a start. While we're in Australia, let's take a look at an interview of a U.S. Congresswoman and a Australian journalist. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And the premise of this interview was the Australian broadcaster wanted to talk to a sitting U.S. Congresswoman about the Julian Assange case. As you know, Julian Assange is an Australian citizen. And he has finally been allowed to return to his country after being incarcerated. He has reached a settlement deal with the U.S. government over the publication of stolen military and espionage documents or intelligence community documents. I just want to say quickly, no matter where you stand on this, and I understand both sides of the equation here on the data that was stolen by Edward Snowden and Bradley Manning, and the publication of it that many people believe put our servicemen in harm's way, and that's obviously a problem. I just want to say, though, I'm pretty sure that if the New York Times or the Washington Post or CNN had done exactly what Julian Assange had done, they would be martyrs for freedom of the press and they would be protected at all costs. But because Julian Assange had his own independent free website, he was the most dangerous man on the planet. Also, by the way, I think the real reason they went after him was not because of what Edward Snowden and Bradley Manning stole and gave to him. I think it had to do with all of those John Podesta emails that exposed Hillary Clinton and could very well have helped spike her campaign. I think that's the real crime that Julian Assange committed. That said, in Australia, they have a vested interest in following this story since Assange is now back in that country as an Australian citizen, a free man after his settlement. So here's the interview with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Again, this is about Julian Assange, right? Let's watch.
You've never accepted the results of the 2020 presidential election. Indeed, you've lionized people for the attack
Sarah,
on the
aren't we
Capitol.
talking about Julian Assange or even a serious interviewer? I thought we're talking about Julian Assange here today.
We are.
That's what you were asking me to come on
Indeed.
your Australian news. I don't usually do interviews like this because people like you can't be taken seriously.
You've lionized.
Coming from an Australian here, this is the dominant issue of truth. Okay, let's hear it.
So you've lionized people imprisoned for their role in attacking the Capitol on January the 6th, including visiting them in prison. What will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election?
What does this have to do with Julian Assange again, Sarah? I think that was the purpose of our interview. Here, let me tell you something that you don't quite understand. In 2020, America watched riot with BLM riots that caused over $2 billion in our communities and cities across the country. What the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth, is that in America today, we have a two-tier justice system. The Justice Department, the DOJ, targets their political enemies, and President Trump is the very top of that. And people that protested the election on January 6th are also the target of it. And what you probably don't tell your viewers is that many of these people that are being arrested and put in jail simply walked into the Capitol building through open doors and videoed and took pictures of the inside of the Capitol, and then they walked out through doors. And that's, I'm sure, not the images that you show on your network in Australia, but it's a shame because that's what the media has done and twisted and lied. That's why we applaud Julian Assange, because he didn't twist and lie and tried to pervert the truth. He told the truth, and we appreciate him for that.
If Biden wins, will you accept the result?
What does this have to do with Julian Assange? What network is this? What is this, ABC in Australia? Is she getting any marching orders from the Democrat Party? Is this what you decided to come up with today?
You're a prominent figure in US politics. The first debate is tomorrow. The result of the election is on the minds not just of Americans, but of the whole world. It's a natural point of curiosity, but I understand that we've reached the end of the questions that you want to answer. Thank you for talking to us about Julian Assange and for joining the program.
Thank you.
I do like Marjorie. People ask about, what Trump has done to American politics and how Trump has made, Trump's greatest sin from the corporate media's perspective, from the left-wing Marxists of the world's perspective, and from the establishment type politicians, whether Republican or Democrat, his greatest sin is that he has taught other politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene that they don't have to roll over and play the nice guy anymore. That they can call bull on reporters like this or journalists like this that set you up and try to box you in. Now, that being said, let me just again, if come on in, we want to talk about Julian Assange. Will you accept the results of the election? Will you storm the Capitol if you lose the election again? I have no doubt that this will be the first question from Jake Tapper tonight to Donald Trump. So this is a couple of things that need to be pointed out here that are sort of a good sort of roadmap for the way this conversation goes, or for that matter, if you have to engage in this conversation with somebody at a family affair, a family gathering, maybe on your Facebook page, maybe standing on the sideline of your kid's soccer game while you're watching 8-year-olds chase a ball around the field. Why are you standing there in the sun? Why? What did you do to deserve this, right? I feel your pain. I was there once. And then, of course, you engage in the conversation. Wow, those MAGA extremists, right? A couple things that I want to point out here. First of all, the original question here that she asked is, maybe she can be forgiven because she's Australian and she doesn't quite know it. But let's watch this original question that was asked.
I don't usually do interviews like this because people like you can't be taken seriously.
You use the term truth as the reason why you have been so supportive of Julian Assange. So I want to go to one of the most dominant issues of truth in the American landscape. As I just said, you've lionized.
Coming from an Australian here, this is the dominant issue of truth. Okay, let's hear it, Sarah.
So you've lionized people imprisoned for their role in attacking the Capitol on January the 6th, including visiting them in prison. What will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election?
Yeah, that was the question. What will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election? And one appropriate response, if Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted, and I'm certainly not correcting Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she handled herself here, but she could have also responded by saying, well, you know what, let's, I know you want to talk about 2020, but let's go back to 2016 for a moment, because the supporters of Hillary Clinton, and for that matter, Hillary Clinton herself, and her allies in the federal government, including the director of the FBI and other attorneys and officers at the FBI in Washington, D.C., they didn't take too kindly to the results of the 2016 election, right? Now, I could focus on the riots that occurred in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day in 2017. I know that everyone wants to forget that, but go back and watch the videos. I lived in Washington, D.C. I work in Washington, D.C. I saw what happened, where people were rampaging through the city in protest of the inauguration. It's not like Hillary Clinton supporters just said, well, that's it. It's over. Peaceful transfer of power. Let's go. Not to mention the fact that 2 weeks before Inauguration Day, Barack Obama held a meeting in the Oval Office with Joe Biden, with James Comey, with Susan Rice, and other high-placed people in the final days of the Obama administration, and put into motion a secret investigation of the incoming president and his administration. Susan Rice was so obviously cognizant of the fact that what they were doing was subverting the next administration that she wrote in her daily journal, President Obama made sure that this was all done by the book. Who writes that? And of course, we've learned that it wasn't done by the book. It wasn't done by the book in any stretch of the imagination, not in any way whatsoever. And then, of course, we know that the entire Trump presidency was subverted, not from some MAGA supporters who were storming the Capitol one day for 3 hours. And as Marjorie Taylor Greene said, most of them walked through doors held open by Capitol Police. No. The Trump presidency was subverted from within by bureaucrats with power. And that power was used to undo the presidency and undo his reelection attempts. But that doesn't really fly on the radar of these journalists, certainly not in Australia, and certainly not here in this country. I mean, you tell me, what is more dangerous to democracy? The 4 hours of mayhem that was bad on January 6th, or the ongoing insidious use of our government power to subvert the election by going after and undermining the actual president of the United States and his administration and his cabinet? And then now the use of government power to actually jail the president's political opponent. I mean, I know what I think is more dangerous. I know what keeps me up at night more. Good for Marjorie Taylor Greene. And again, it's a great, just like with Tucker earlier, it's a great lesson on how to deal with these people and how to handle them. Oh, and one more thing. If you are asked on the sideline of that soccer game or on your Facebook page, if you'll accept the results of the election, the best answer is, listen, as long as the Democrats don't cheat again, of course I'll accept the results. See what they do in response to that. I'd love to see their response. All right, we have now had multiple news cycles, weekly, sometimes daily, of innocent young girls who have been harmed, sexually assaulted, raped, murdered. by illegal immigrants in this country. Fox News sent one of their reporters to the halls of the Capitol to track down Democrat congressmen to find out if they can actually respond to this, react to this. What do you say to the parents involved? Why aren't you more motivated to do something about border security and deportations of people who are in this country illegally so American citizens can be protected from this violent crime? The reactions on Capitol Hill were, well, there are many different reactions. I want to show them to you because they run the gamut. Each and every one of them have something in common, though. They will outrage you. Take a look.
Ask you quickly about the 12-year-old girl in Houston that was tortured.
The strangers. I don't even know who you are. And I don't know who she is. I live in Pittsburgh.
Okay, but there was a child who was killed at the. I don't know anything about it. You don't know about the child that was killed by illegal immigrants?
There you go. That's Congresswoman Summer Lee. I don't know who you are. I don't know who she is. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have time for you. You're a sitting congressperson. You've been elected to represent your district. Innocent American citizen raped and murdered. And that's the response? Yeah, talk to the hand. I don't know you. I don't know anything about it. By the way, I think she's lying. But if she really doesn't know anything about it, frankly, that's even more telling. Now, Jerry Nadler can't lie. He's the chairman of the Judiciary. Or no, excuse me. Now he's the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. Jerry Nadler knows full well what's going on here. So he gives an even more maddening response. Here, take a look.
If you look at the statistics, the crime rate among immigrants is far lower than the crime rate among native-born Americans. So the whole issue is wrong.
Aren't the crimes preventable, though, if these people don't have a right to be here in the first place?
I've said what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I bet he doesn't want to give a response to that. And he gives the hand. I do like the hand. Can we see the hand again?
In the first place?
I've said what I'm going to say.
Oof. Yeah, this may be the most odious talking point that I've seen from the left, and I've been seeing it a lot lately. In fact, even Joe Biden tried to make this point during the State of the Union when he was confronted by Marjorie Taylor Greene about Laken Riley. Say her name. Remember that moment? And then his biggest problem that day in responding was that he was trying to make the point that non-immigrants cause more crime in America, but he used the word illegals. And that was the big headline. That was the big outrage. Instead of the fact that he used this talking point, which is, first of all, a lie, and second of all, beyond irrelevant, it's actually insulting to the victims of these crimes. All right, let's break it down for a moment. Let's watch what Jerry Nadler said one more time so that you can have facts at your disposal.
If you look at the statistics, the crime rate among immigrants is far lower than the crime rate among native-born Americans.
All right, now, first of all, I'm sure you've already seen through this for the lie that it is, but it's the most insidious kind of lie because it's sort of true. It's the favorite lie that Democrats have. The crime rates of native-born Americans is high. No, I'm sorry. I'll put it in his words. The crime rate of immigrants is lower than native-born citizens. All right. You already see through it, I'm sure. He used the word immigrants, not illegal immigrants. Now, the fact of the matter is immigrants who actually go through the process of becoming naturalized through the legal process, who actually take the time, spend the money, and have the respect for this country that we deserve to actually adhere to our immigration laws and come here legally. The fact of the matter is, yes, they are law-abiding people because they respect the law so much that they don't break our laws as their first act in entering our country. There's also more of a vetting process of people who enter this country illegally. They fill out forms. They're actually screened. We actually have processes in place. Now, whether those processes are working or not, I'm not sure. But at least we have the system in place to do some level of vetting of people who come to this country legally. And he lumped them all together. Those who come through the legal process and those who come here illegally, number one. Number two, the fact of the matter is huge numbers of law enforcement jurisdictions in this country, because of the mandates put on them by Democrat city councils, Democrat mayors, Democrat county supervisors, even Democrat state governments. They mandate that those law enforcement agencies do not keep records of the immigration status of the criminals that they apprehend. So there is, in many cases, no distinction when someone is arrested based on whether they are here legally or not here legally, or whether they're immigrants or natural-born citizens. The data does not exist. And finally, and you can go ahead and look this up. In fact, look it up with my name associated with it. The data point is this: the majority of the inmates in federal prison today are non-citizens. Go ahead and look that up with Larry O'Connor's name, because I said it several years ago on Fox News, and I was fact-checked on that. That's right. PolitiFact or Fact Check or Snopes, one of them, I don't remember. They investigated it. I remember they sent me an email. What's the basis of that you said? And let me repeat it. The majority of inmates in federal prison are non-citizens. And it's true. Now, of course, PolitiFact or whoever it was that fact-checked me on it gave it a mostly true. That's the best you can get when you're a conservative commentator in America today. So lie after lie after lie. But finally, and God bless it, the most important part of this. Imagine you are the parent of a child who was abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered. And then you find out that the assailant, the perpetrator, the suspect, the person who did that, the murderer, was in this country illegally, was in fact turned away multiple times at the border and was told not to come into this country, snuck into the country, apprehended, and then allowed to stay in this country. Imagine that is the person who murdered your precious little daughter. And then Jerry Nadler comes knocking on your door and says, listen, I know this is a rough day for you. I'm sorry, but I just want you to know that you shouldn't be upset about the immigration status of the person who raped and murdered your daughter. Because the fact is, the crime rate for immigrants in this country is much lower than people who are naturally born here. Now, don't you feel better? I'm sure it takes a lot of the anger away. I'm sure you feel a lot less enraged by what happened to your daughter. That's what Jerry Nadler is saying here. That's exactly what Jerry Nadler is saying here. And nowhere at any point does it even occur to him that if, in fact, our laws were adhered to and followed on something as basic to a country as having a secure border, that if that law was adhered to the way it was one president ago, that your daughter would still be alive. That apparently doesn't even cross the mind of Jerry Nadler. In fact, when he's charged with that or confronted with that fact by the Fox News reporter, what was his response again?
It's wrong.
Aren't the crimes preventable, though, if these people don't have a right to be here in the first place?
I've said what I'm going to say.
Because that is the fundamental response. Aren't these crimes? The measure is not what are the crimes committed by people in the country illegally versus the people who were born here. That's not the measure. No, the measure is what are the crimes committed by people who aren't supposed to be in this country compared to zero? Because if they're not supposed to be here in the first place, and they're breaking the laws to get here, and then they commit crimes, well, if you go back 3 steps and you enforce the laws so that they're not here, then there would be zero crimes committed by them because they're not here. Fox News wasn't done. They had one more politician to talk to. Let's take a look.
Isn't the crime preventable if parole were not happening, of people who are going to end up killing people in this country?
Because a very small percentage of immigrants did something bad, we shouldn't allow the parole program for all people. The question is, because 1 or 2 people did something horrible, we should rip away the benefit from everybody else. And we don't use that logic for anything else in this country.
Actually, they use that logic for everything else in this country. Anytime there's a mass shooting somewhere, they want to rip away your right to defend yourself and your family. And that's a constitutional right. That's exactly what they do all the time, right? I mean, all the time. Look what they're doing to Zyn right now. You know, there may be cases where some people get addicted to Zyn and they go overboard and it harms their health. So what's their initial response? What's their gut thing that they want to do? Their knee-jerk reflex? That's it. Ban Zyn. Nobody gets Zyn. No one gets, they got to kill it. Kill it for everybody. That's what they do all the time. But it's just for this issue that they call foul. It's just for this issue that say, well, you can't paint with a broad brush, right? All right, that leads us to the last and probably the most horrible political response to this terrible crime down in Houston. And this one, shockingly, comes from a judge in Harris County, Texas, right there in Houston. Now, thankfully, I don't think this is the judge hearing the case of the criminals who have been arrested in this terrible crime against this 12-year-old girl, but maybe she's indicative of the judges in that county. And if so, I think they might need to move the jurisdiction for the criminal trial. Watch this.
Judge, I spoke with Commissioner Ramsey, and I asked him this question. Based upon our policies as they exist, would you label Harris County as a place where immigrants come because of lax enforcement of laws? And he said yes. And he said that he believes that the policies of a sanctuary county drew characters like this, and that wouldn't happen elsewhere. I'd like you to react to that.
Well, I imagine you're talking about the horrible tragedy with Jacqueline, and just all the facts about it are almost unimaginable. So, of course, I want to acknowledge the family and her memory. And the issue of immigrants, I mean, Harris County is a county that is growing, that has a lot of opportunities. You know, most people say we're not from Houston, a lot of us, but we got here because of opportunities, and that was the case for my family as well. So I wouldn't say Harris County is sanctuary or not a sanctuary. The areas that are economic powerhouses are where people are going to want to go. Now, would these guys have been here where there are different immigration policies? Well, there was an opportunity to have them. President Biden worked with Leader McConnell on policies that specifically would have kept these guys out. And then former President Trump decided he didn't like them, and there was an inexplicable flip-flop from Senator McConnell, Leader McConnell, and the rest of the caucus. So that's on offer from President Biden, to have a system whereby these immigrants will not be released if they have not shown and been through the actual process of being admitted legally. Now, we talk about immigration, and I really do want to separate the two, because it's very easy to malign a population. And these two men did not do what they did, or, allegedly, because they are immigrants. Okay, they did not. These are two different things. In fact, the issue, I think, that we need to recognize as well is the issue of violence against women. That's
all right. You know what? I'm getting stupider and stupider watching this, because she's just drawing from every claptrap talking point that the left uses. Talk about a straw man. I mean, this is a straw man that Ray Bolger would be ashamed of. This is a straw man that could be singing and dancing down the yellow brick road to go see the Wonderful Wizard. No one, and I mean no one, is saying that these two committed this crime because they're immigrants. That's ridiculous. That's outrageous. Literally no one is saying that. What people are saying is that they shouldn't have been in this country. They broke our laws to get in here. They weren't vetted properly by the people who are supposed to secure our border and enforce our border security. We have laws, and they're being violated, not just by these two who came in illegally and then raped and murdered this girl. No, the laws are being violated by the president himself and the lack of enforcement of those laws. So no one's saying that, but did you catch what she said there? You shouldn't blame this president. The person to blame is the last president. These people are in the country illegally because of Trump. Trump is to blame. In the same breath that they say that it's outrageous to accuse this current administration and the party that's allowing people in the country illegally, rampantly, who then commit crimes here, many of them, they say it's outrageous to accuse this president, who has opened our borders, of being complicit in this crime. In the same breath, they said, however, it's absolutely appropriate to blame Donald Trump. Now, I would expect this from Democrats in Washington, as you just saw, and I would certainly expect it from Joe Biden tonight because, well, not only is he a mean-spirited liar and has been his entire career, but he's also got mashed potato for brains. So he's going to say whatever he's been told to say tonight as he was getting his happy juice injected into his veins. What's truly terrifying about this is that woman is a judge. That woman is a judge in Harris County, Houston, Texas, where these two alleged murderers, suspected murderers, will be tried. And that, well, do better, Houston, is all I can say. Do better. That's it this time because we are out of time. So in the meantime, and until next time, I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.